so happy it's, a good turnout and we have a good audience getting ready to, prepare for the college and career piece of after high school. So for those of you that don't know me, I'm Kathleen Sanchez and I am the 12th grade counselor. So I only work with seniors. So next year, if you're a junior, I will be your school counselor. So for those of you that may be working with Ms. Rigda or Ms. Lauschen, you will transition on to working with me next year, okay? So, again, this is a college parent night, so a lot of our seniors have already heard this information through the classroom presentations that we had earlier this month. Some of it may be repetitive for some of you guys, but hopefully you learn some new stuff. And then for juniors, this is a great time to kind of be doing this stuff. So I will try to talk a little bit slower because I do talk really fast. So I will try to slow down so all of you guys can hear me. As I mentioned before, our school counseling team remains a little bit similar. So Ms. Lauschen is working with last names 8 through K, 9 through 11th grade, and then Ms. Rigda is working with 9 through 11, L through Z. And then I work with seniors. So I just kind of wanted to put that out there for all of you that may not be aware of the change. That is our new counseling breakdown. And today I have a very special college admissions rep as a CSU alum. I thought it was really cool to kind of bring someone from my own college experience in. So I will let him introduce himself.
Not the greatest picture. Well, good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us this evening. My name is Thomas Diller. I am one of the admissions counselors with Cleveland State University. I've been at Cleveland State University for just a couple months, but I've been in the admissions world for about 5 years. I come to Cleveland, the Cleveland area from the University of South Florida, and I worked in their admissions office for 5 years, so I like to think I know a little bit about college admissions. I primarily do work with students in Lorain County, so all of you, but they also keep me busy at Cleveland State, and I also cover Southwest Ohio as well. But again, thank you all for having me this evening.
And what were the schools that you were previously at for those that might?
Oh, so I was at the University of South Florida, which is kind of in the Tampa Bay area. So I worked with a lot of high schools down in the Florida area.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So he'll be here to kind of just answer some of the questions you guys might have along the way. And then towards the end, I will do a question and answer for our admissions rep. So any questions you might have as to how they look at applications, what the process is like from their end, he will be here to answer some of those questions. So maybe some of the stuff that I may not see as a high school counselor and that he would see when the application gets to him, those are questions that you can throw his way. So to get started, I know college is very exciting, but one thing that we do have to talk about is graduating high school. So this is one thing that I want to remind all of you. So these are the requirements to graduate from high school in the state of Ohio. So you're required to earn 22 credits for the class of 2022. That includes 4 units of English, 4 units of math, and then 3 units in social studies and then in science. Additionally, you must complete half a credit of health, PE, financial literacy, and then credit of fine art. And then that leaves you with about 5.5 credits of electives. Most of you guys are done with your graduation requirements if you are a senior. Some of you may be working towards your math and English, like those might be your last 2 things. And then on top of that, you must complete your state testing. So you must earn 18 points. There's 7 areas in which you would be tested in. Most of our seniors have already completed those state requirements. And if they have not, I will be having that conversation with them. Currently, I am in the process of completing one-on-one senior conferences with all of our seniors. So I meet with the student, I check as to where they're applying, post high school plans, and then I do a breakdown as to where they stand in credits. So that is one thing we have to make sure that we get taken care of so that way we can move on to the college piece, okay? So when we are looking at colleges, what are some factors that we typically like to consider? It may vary a little bit for you guys as parents, but for our students, what are some of the factors that we typically consider when we are looking at our college options? Anyone? I know they are up on the board, but if anyone would like to share any additional ones. So yes, typically we are looking at location and size. So some students may have that anxiety factor in who they are and they may not be comfortable with their school. So for them, it would make sense to look at a smaller school. Typically, our private liberal arts schools tend to be a little bit smaller than our state school, as we know. Additionally, we do have to consider cost and financial aid. College is one of the most expensive privileges that we do have, so it is something that we do have to take into consideration. How much money may the student get off, and how much will it cost semester, year, books, and all of those different pieces that go into the cost of attending college. Majors and educational programs. So you don't want to attend a school that doesn't have your major. So if you have a very specialized major, you want to make sure that the school has it. For example, some students may major in psychology. They may not have that big of a worry because it's a very general major, and most schools do have it, so you don't have to have that fear they may not have my major. And should you be applying to a school that doesn't have your major? It depends as to what you're looking for in a school. Additionally, you have to consider admissions requirement. How likely is it that you will get into that school? So you don't want to get your hopes up that you will get into this great school and then maybe not have a shot, and potentially, put in a lot of time and effort and work and money into getting into this school. So that is one thing that you want to consider as well. One thing that is really important to many students is the campus environment and opportunities. So for example, Cincinnati has an internship co-op opportunity that they require for almost every student to complete. So a lot of students like Cincinnati for that factor because they have those opportunities. They almost guarantee that if you go to Cincinnati, you will have a job lined up by the time you graduate. Other students may be more concerned with being in a smaller hometown environment and may not care about the big city feel. So that is one thing that students can take into consideration. To me, one big one, I worked in support services at Cleveland State for the last 3 years. So I worked for a program called Operation STEM, in which we worked with underrepresented students in STEM. And then I also worked for TRIO, which was a first generation college support program. So to me, support services are really important. So what does your college have to offer in case you're struggling? If you're away from home and you're feeling homesick, if you're struggling in your classes, do they have the supports necessary to make sure that you're being successful? So I think the support services are a really important thing to kind of look at. It may not be the deciding factor, but it is something that you should take into consideration. Furthermore, there's kind of a differences in the colleges and the options that we have. So we're looking at our public versus private schools. So typically, our public schools can be a little bit on the cheaper side when it comes to tuition. On the private side, the total cost may look a little bit higher, but one of the things that I've been telling students that we do have to consider is that sticker price is not always what you pay. Private schools do tend to give a substantial amount of money off, so that is one thing that you would look at their merit-based scholarships, just different opportunities that they may have based on who you are, what you're majoring in, your performance in high school involvement, and things of that sort. Additionally, we have our 2-year college option, so many students I know that I talk to are interested in attending LC the first 2 years because the cost of attending LC can sometimes be a little bit easier on students' overall well-being when choosing a college. And then there's your 4-year institution that typically you can earn a bachelor's degree from. At a 2-year college, you may be looking more so at an associate's degree. So college visits. So I highly encourage for all of those of you, maybe my juniors and seniors, to continue to go on college visits. So for juniors, this is a great time. Summer going into your senior year is a great time to do college visits because I think being on campus, you get a feel for the school. You get to talk to the reps yourself, and you find out if that school is the right fit for you. And one thing that I've actually learned in the last few weeks is that reps, when you do attend a college visit, they will take that into the interest factor, and that will weigh on your application. They saw that you attended a college visit, and they know, well, the student is interested. They put in the work to get to know us and know what we offer. So they take your application in a little bit more serious. So here at Amherst, we do offer 3 planned absences to go on these college visits. So let's say you want to visit Northwestern and you may not be able to get that done in a day or 2 or whatever it may be. You are able to kind of plan that out and do a few visits at a time with our excuse absence form. So for those of you that might want to plan an excuse absence, you can do so through our attendance office, and I do know that we have the form up on our website, so you can fill out that form and then turn it into attendance, so that can be an excused absence. So, additionally, this year we do have reps coming into Steele. So far we've had 18 plus college visits. The reps usually give the students a little card, like an interest card, and by students filling that out, it again shows interest. And they say that when the same reps that come here on these college visits are the same reps that are reviewing their college application. Because just like him, they have their territory. So that's a territory that they're in charge of recruiting, visiting. So by also coming here and seeing that the student had interest, they say after, ask questions, they know that student is truly interested, so they may, look out for their application or have that kind of balance. So those are Tuesdays and Thursdays every week from 9:15 to about 9:45. Usually if the rep has more to share, students have questions, I let them go as long as they need to be. Students can register for these visits on Naviance, and I'll explain it a little bit more what Naviance is. So all of our students, as a district, we pay to have Naviance. So Naviance is a college and career readiness website where students can look at a ton of different resources. And as a district, we pay for our students to have this service. So it pays off for our students to use it. So that's how we book college visits. So students can log on there. Usually it's the first part of their username. Sometimes it can be a little bit funky, and it can be the full email. So students will need to use that, and a lot of students don't know their password, so they just have to reset and kind of go from there. And if for some reason that doesn't work, they can speak to their school counselor to get that reset, whether that's me, Ms. Austin, or Ms. Richter. We can get that account reset. And then again, I'll go into a little bit more detail as to what Naviance is in a little bit. So far we've had about 6 college visits, and these up on the screen are the ones that remain for the next few weeks. I'm sure reps will continue to schedule them as the year goes on, but so far those are the ones that remain. So, talking about college and admissions, I think one of the really confusing pieces for students is knowing the types of degrees that you can earn. So, we can look, for example, our career, technical, trade, or vocational courses. So those would be our JVS students. A lot of them can have pretty great opportunities as soon as they graduate from JVS because they attended there for a year or 2. Additionally, then we go on to our associate's degree, which a lot of our students earn through attending LC for 2 years, and then they may transition on to a 4-year college. Our bachelor's degree, on the other hand, is our 4-year degree, which sometimes comes with a license, certification, or a general degree, and that allows you to do multiple different things, like your general 4-year psychology or business degree. And then master's degree. So going off of those students that may want to major in like psych, bio, sometimes you do need to attend grad school. You will need that master's degree. So that may mean 2 more years of school. It may mean 1 more. So a lot of the schools are following the trend of doing like a 3+1, where you can earn your bachelor's degree in 3 years and then receive your master's degree, not a 3+1, a 4+1. So you can get your bachelor's degree and master's degree in a total of 5 years. So the way that they make that work is by essentially narrowing down the coursework that you are taking the first 3 years, and then that 4th year, you're practically taking a mix of both grad level courses and then undergrad, and then that allows you to get that master's degree in 5 years instead of 6. So it does save on time and money as well. Additionally, I know some other schools are doing like 3+3. I don't know. Yeah, that's another common one for like law students. If you want to do law, and law is a long degree, and you want to start with 3 years of an undergrad and then 3 years of a master's, a lot of schools do combine that as well. And then our doctorate degree. I don't know how many of you guys may be thinking about that, but a PhD degree. So if you're looking to go into a field that's more specialized, if you may be looking to teach at the college level, if you're interested in doing research, PhD programs are usually the way to go, but they do require extensive amounts of higher ed. So that is one thing to consider. And one of the reasons I bring this up is just to remind some of you that when you're picking your college major, and you may be picking something broad because you love that field and you're interested in it, make sure that you're also looking at what you could do afterwards, because sometimes that may require more school, and some students may not be interested in that, so it's nice to have that perspective put in place early on. So, when applying to colleges, it is recommended that students mainly apply 3 to 5. There are some students that like to go a little bit beyond that. Some are like, no, I'm just going to do one school, which is fine. But truly, 3 to 5 schools is the way to go, just because you are kind of putting, you know, Zane, do you have something to share with us?
No, that's all right.
But yes, 3 to 5 schools is typically recommended. You're looking at schools that you will likely get in, and then you're looking at schools that you're kind of at the level. You may receive some merit-based scholarships, and then you should always try to have a reach school. So a lot of times, students get really intimidated that they may not get into a school, but you should still try it because there's still chances that you may. Okay, so components of a college application. So it begins with the completed application. So typically, this is everyday information like birthday, address, parent information, degree level of your parents. Sometimes students do come to me with help for that, and it is a little bit more personal, and I think sometimes that information piece is when parents' role can be really helpful with kind of saying like, no, like sometimes kids don't even know what degree level their parents have, so kind of reminding them like, this is what I have, this is, you know, like that kind of thing. So that is one component that I see parents being really helpful in, but students should be able to fill that out on their own as well. Then comes requesting those official high school transcripts. So we send our transcripts out through Naviance. Again, all of our students have an account to that, and they must request through Naviance, and that's how we send them out. And then for LCC transcripts, I have the instructions as to how students do that. It comes along with our Naviance handout as well. LC transcripts are actually free to request for our students, which I'm actually really shocked by because a lot of colleges do charge for transcripts. SAT, ACT scores. So at this point for seniors, you should have at least one or the other. You should have taken, this year a lot of schools are test optional, so they're not as significant as other years. But for current juniors, I really recommend that you start looking at the SAT and ACT, just testing out the waters. Because although we may easily be test optional next year, we don't know that for sure. So it's kind of better to be safe and prepared than, you know, kind of regret waiting it out. Even our reps that have come in so far, when students ask, will you be test optional next year, they continue to say that they don't know yet. But our current seniors, most of our schools are test optional. So if you want to give SAT and ACT another shot, you can go for it. But you are, you know, more than welcome to apply without the scores. And our transcripts currently do have unofficial SAT and ACT scores on there. But if a student selects on a Common App or on the school's application that they want to apply test optional, of course they'll see that the score is on your transcript, but they're not going to take that into consideration. As one of the reps put it, I'm not blind, I will see your score, but I know I'm not taking it into consideration. So I know a lot of students have been emailing me like, hey, I want my score off. So it's not really necessary because if you selected test optional, they will not look at your scores. So essays. So essays, this is the part that trips up a lot of students. They don't know what to write about. Reps want this to be something meaningful to you, who you are. They want to connect to who you are, and sometimes they do read these essays and they kind of decide as to if they will accept you based on your essay. So one of the ladies, the rep from Cincinnati, I don't know why she keeps coming back in my head, but she shared that one of the applicants that she worked with wrote an essay about her mom passing away and how she had to get used to like using an alarm clock just because she was so used to her mom like waking her up every morning, and it just talked about like what it meant to adult for her. And the rep really connected with that because she has a high school daughter, and she's like, absolutely, like I accepted her because her essay was so compelling. So reps really want to hear compelling stories that tell who you are. Letters of recommendations, on the other hand, not all schools require them, but some do. When students ask me if they should request letters of recommendation, I think it doesn't hurt. You should definitely do so, especially if you have a teacher that can really speak as to who you are, your character, it does not hurt to have that. Some schools do require a counselor letter of rec, so better stay on my good side. But I did send out a survey for all of our seniors to kind of fill it out, because as you know, with getting to know everyone, I don't know you fully. So I kind of need a little bit of background as to who you are. And I have to say, a lot of students put in a lot of effort into filling out these essays for me, and I can write them a great letter, but if you're not giving me all the information that I need, and you're putting in minimum effort in filling out that form for me, your letter is not going to be as great as it should. So the effort that you put into filling out that essay is the same. It will show in the letter that I write for you. And although I don't know a lot of my seniors yet fully, I can tell who they are by just being in the classroom or in the hallways. So I'll see my students in the hallway, and I'm already getting pretty good at recognizing names and faces. And I then read that survey that they filled out for me, and I'm like, oh, I start to make those connections, and I'm allowed to reflect on those when I write their letters of rec. And again, many schools do require counselor letters of rec, so you kind of want to be on the lookout for that. My one thing with letters of rec, when counselors are required, it's not very often. So I do ask students to be on the lookout for that and let me know if your school requires a counselor letter of rec, because I truly have no way of knowing. If you don't tell me that your school requires a letter of rec, I will not know that. I know that, for example, Case Western does, because many of our students are applying there this year, so it's kind of just been ingrained in my head that I need to write Case Western letters of rec. And then, interestingly enough, I know BW does on the Common App, but not on the website application. So then there's the interview. So for those of you that might be applying to more selective schools, you will have an interview component to that. And if you're really nervous about it, it might be something to set up like a 30-minute meeting with me and kind of practice. We can go through questions that you may be asked and kind of go back and forth, and I can kind of, because sometimes I think even just the practice goes a long way. It allows you to feel more confident when you're doing it, and hopefully you knock it right out. Application fees. So many of you guys may have started to experience application fees. So most colleges do require a fee to apply to their schools. I am noticing though that a lot of the more smaller private schools like your Ashland, BW are not charging that application fee. I'm not sure as to the reason why, but for the most part that is a component. So the Common App. How many of my seniors have created Common App or are applying through Common App? How many of our parents know what Common App is? Okay, good chunk. Okay, so many of the seniors, when I met with them earlier this year, they were like, what? What is Common App? Like, what are you talking about? So Common App is a little bit different than Naviance. You don't have a school account through it. You do have to create your own account. On Common App, it allows you to apply to multiple schools at once. So instead of filling out the form 5 different times separately for different colleges, you can apply it, you can fill it out only once, and then each school will have a small section that they will ask you questions on. So Common App, you create your own account and you add the colleges that you're applying to. On the Common App, there is essay requirements. So for example, if you are only applying to 2 schools, and that's it, for sure it's only 2 and done. It might be nice to just apply through the school's website, because you could eliminate some of that essay requirement that comes with Common App. I also wanted to highlight this to all of you guys. On the Common App, there will be a section that just shares all the required materials, so school report, which comes from me. So every transcript I sent out comes with that school report. Counselor recommendation required, final report, which is your final transcript, and then teacher evals, which are just letters of recommendation. And highlighting that final report right there, when students request transcripts on Naviance, it will ask them, do you want your initial, mid-year, and final? So the way to look at it is initial is everything up until your junior year. So it'll have your senior classes listed on the side, but they will not be factored into your GPA, and no grades will be there. Mid-year is everything up until December of your senior year, so first semester. And then final is everything up until graduation. So most schools typically require all 3. Again, sometimes my seniors are like, well, my GPA is not the greatest from junior year, so I don't think I'm going to send my transcript in anytime soon. But it's like, how can you get accepted into a school if you don't send a transcript in? So although you may not feel confident in that initial transcript, we do have to send it to make sure you find out from the school sooner rather than later. And a lot of the schools A lot of our local schools that our students are interested in, like your BGSU, your Cleveland State, they are rolling admissions. So that means that students can apply at any time in the year. So with that does give them some flexibility. So if the school you're applying to is rolling admission, you do have some flexibility there. So talking about deadlines, as I said, rolling admission, that means they admit students throughout the entire year. And so you can kind of apply at any time really, and you don't have to worry about that deadline. Early action, you can apply early and find out early. So the reason that early action is highly recommended, especially for some of our top and more competitive schools, for example, Ohio State or Cincinnati, in order to qualify for merit-based or different types of scholarships, honors college, they need you to apply early action. If you do not apply early action, you will not be considered for those scholarships and or different opportunities. So if you're looking at, I actually have a layout of a lot of the schools that have visited here so far, and that has a lot of their merit-based scholarship requirements and honors college and things like that. So if you want to stop over there at the end, I can kind of go over some of the schools that students may be interested in. I don't have all of them again, so we've had 6 college visits so far. We had BW today, and I actually was unable to get BW's in both, but I have all the rest of them. So again, if you're looking at getting some of those perks of applying early action, such as attending an honors college and or merit-based scholarships, you have to submit early. Early decision, on the other hand, when I see them in Naviance, I kind of panic. Because when students apply early decision, that means they're committing to go to that school. So if your student is applying early decision, I've decided that I'm just sending a form home because it's binding. That means if a student is accepted to the school, they have to go there. There's really no way out unless there's some form of like financial aid difficulties there, then they will, let you go from that agreement. So as of now, that's kind of my plan for early decision. If anyone applies that with that deadline, I will send a form home for students to fill out. Regular decision is your typical. Typically the deadlines are like end of this year, early next year, and you will find out typically in the spring. So a lot of students kind of choose to go that path because they may need that extra time. They may not feel ready to do the early action, so that still gives some, leeway for those students. So again, going back to Naviance, this is where we request our transcript. So these are the very different things that we use Naviance for here at the high school. So we use it for letters of recommendations. So when our students are asking a teacher for a letter of recommendation, they will ask on Naviance. However, I've kind of ran through this year is that if, for example, if a student wants to use a coach for a letter of rec or an employer, they're not on Naviance, so that person will have to mail in the letter of recommendation. They can't send them through Naviance, like our teachers can. Additionally, there's some career assessments on there. So if your child is not sure as to what they want to major in, they can take advantage of those career assessments. There's interest profilers, and they kind of map out careers that are of interest to them. There is a parent component to Naviance where parents can log on, but I have noticed that our school currently does not have that hooked up. So hopefully for next year, that's something that we can work for so parents can also have access to it. You can see where your student is applying to and where they're at with the process. College visits, like I mentioned before, this is where students go to sign up for visits. So on the homepage on Naviance, there's a section called What's New, and students will scroll through that, and there'll be a few different dates, and they can do view more and register for the visit. And again, if you're a senior, this is a great time to do so because the reps see you come to the visit, they make that connection with you, they talk to you face to face, and they will look out for your application. And again, I think one of the best reasons that we use Naviance is due to the data, because you can see where most of our students apply, where they attended, and then you can apply the same trends to the following year. So my current seniors are kind of setting up the trends for my upcoming seniors, the current juniors. And there's a scholarship search component there. So eventually I will list any scholarship that come my way, and they may not be so much local, but I know of them. So I will list them on Naviance. Like for example, I share with a lot of seniors the Heisman Scholarship. That was a scholarship for mainly students that played sports throughout high school. The requirement was a 3.0. There was like no essay involved. It was a decent amount of money, so I added that to Naviance. Coca-Cola is another scholarship that I put out through our Twitter. There's like $20,000 in awards for the Coca-Cola scholarship. So those scholarships, I will add them to Naviance because they're not necessarily local, but students can still apply for them and they're still pretty reliable. Additionally, Naviance, one cool aspect of it is based on your colleges and your interests and the colleges that you've added to your list, colleges that you're applying to, they will come up with different grants and or scholarships that you qualify for at that school. If you go to the scholarship tabs, there's a few different things that you can do through that. And again, username is your school email. It should just be the first part, but if for any reason you have any trouble with that, try your full email. And if for some reason that doesn't work, email your school counselor and they can try to reset that for you. This is mainly, I'm guessing, for my juniors. Again, some seniors have kind of decided that they may be applying test optional. They may have already taken the SAT, ACT, and are happy with where they scored. So these are our test dates. So I think a lot of parents from the conversations that I've had so far, they get confused and think that we offer the SAT, ACT for every student free. We do offer the SAT to our juniors. So every junior gets to take the SAT through us once. But after that, you do have to register and pay for it yourself. Those are the dates for the rest of this academic school year. Those are the test dates for the SAT and then the ACT. The registration sites that are up there, do register in advance because if you don't, there's like a $30 fee. Additionally, I put up there that they're around a month in advance, but in reality it's only 3 weeks. You have to register at least 3 weeks before the actual test date, and then a month in advance is usually the late fee. So do be on the lookout for that. I just threw up this comparison table for the ACT and SAT. Oftentimes I get asked the question, well, which one's better? Which one should I take? And honestly, one trend that I truly have noticed from looking at transcripts is that students typically do tend to score better on one test over the other. So I do recommend you at least take each once, because you will find out which score works best for you. Most colleges do take both, so for all of the criteria, they will list both ACT, SAT scores. It used to be a thing that SAT was more so like, would you say out of state, or was it regional based?
Yeah, from my experience, the ACT was a little bit more regional based. At CSU and USF, where I both worked, we looked at both tests equally. Some schools also super score too, so that means that they'll take, you send all your test scores even if you think it's not the best test score, just because they take your highest subsection score and create your best overall composite, and that's what they use for their admissions decisions.
And that is a really good point, because actually Case Western, as we all know, is one of the more competitive schools in Ohio. And I actually reached out to them this week because I had a senior who had taken the test 4 times, the ACT for example, and the parent was really concerned that the admissions office was going to see all 4 scores. They don't care about that, and I talked to Cincinnati about that as well, and they said the same thing. They think that one time you might have known that you were going to do really well in the science section, and then another time you were preparing for the math section. So they do take each section, so let's say there's 4 tests. They will take your best score out of all 4 tests, and then they, like he said, they will super score it. So again, sometimes it is nice to have all of those attempts on there because it could make you, look like a superstar.
Not every school does super score.
Right, but it is something that is, an option. So Cincinnati and Case Western did say that they do that. You said just CSU?
CSU does not.
Oh.
But we are test optional.
Very good. Oh, and then go back to test optional, because this has been my favorite question this year. I get so many seniors that are like, well, should I set my test scores? And I'm just like, it's really what you feel comfortable with. It truly 100% is. So far, the only times that you may want to refrain from test optional is if you're looking, some schools may still require it for merit-based scholarship. So far, all the ones that I've talked to say that they do not. Specialized program entry requirements, so some schools may want you to have a certain ACT or SAT scores to get into their program. I know the forensics program at BGSU is one of those where they require you to have a certain score. Cincinnati mentioned that for their nursing program, along with another program, they do still require an SAT, ACT score for that. And here's the thing in that case though, you could still apply without sending your test score, and you may get into the school. That doesn't mean that you won't get into the school, that may just mean that you will not get into that program yet. But in that case, you can continue to take the SAT and or ACT and work towards getting that score up, and whenever you're ready to send it in because your score went up, then you will do so. And say like, hey, like I'm ready to be admitted into this program now because I achieved that score that you were requiring. So again, you can apply test optional and then continue to take the tests and then send those in whenever you have achieved your desired score or required score. Additionally, I think sometimes if you are unsure as to whether to go test optional or not, for my current seniors, I recommend that you take the weight of your supplemental materials. So how well do you write your essay? What does your GPA say about you? What does your transcript say about you? So although you may have failed, I don't know, chemistry your freshman year, but although you may have failed chemistry and then really well in a following science the following year, it just shows improvement there at least. It shows that you struggled, but you still tried it. Let's say you did track your freshman year, but then you quit and then you stay doing band the rest of high school. It shows that you were kind of exploring who you are, and that still says a lot about you. So you do want to take, although a lot of students get really anxious about that and think that it makes them look bad, it still helps, you know, that you try different things. So financial aid, the fun part of college, this truly is. So how many of you guys know what Fafsa is? Okay, decent amount. So it opens tomorrow, October 1st. So all of our seniors will be filling that out tomorrow, I hope, right? Everyone made an account already, right? All my seniors? Okay. So the way that Fafsa works, it will provide aid based on your financial need. It offers 3 types of aid. So grants, loans, and work study. So grants are typically money that you do not pay back. Loans are money that you borrow. And one of the things that I want to put out there for Fafsa, let's say you know that you're not going to qualify for any grants. Every single student will be awarded loans. And here's the thing, you want loans from Fafsa over a private company because the interest is so much lower than your private companies. So if you're stressed about paying for college, this is the way to go just because you don't want the high interest that come with that. Work study, interestingly enough, BW this morning was like, some of the students asked about the on-campus work opportunities, and I was just, trying to plug in the financial aid because I'm going to tell you why in a minute. But work study basically means that the government sets money aside for you to work. So for example, they'll give your school $4,000 or whatever it may be. And that means that money is there to pay you to work on campus. And one of the things that I really like about on-campus job is that they're flexible with your schedule. You're only required to work 20 hours a week. You cannot typically work more than that. And they're typically a little bit more of the minimum wage, which is also nice as a college student. And BW mentioned this morning that they make their work study applicants apply first. So they will take anyone that has work study first, and then after 5 weeks, if they haven't hired as many people as they need in whatever office it may be, then they will open it up to people that don't have work study. So the way that you get work study, basically anyone really can, is just selecting on the FAFSA that you want to apply for work study. So down here is the link to access the FAFSA. And again, it opens tomorrow. I know all of you will be up at 6 a.m. Getting ready to go. And actually, ODE just shared that they created this new website. So ODE is the Ohio Department of Ed. So that's relevant to all of us because we are in the state of Ohio. Most of us do apply to local schools. So the website is literally itsforyou.org. And this is a checklist of everything that you need to fill out the FAFSA. So your social security number, parent's social security number, driver's license. If you're not a U.S. citizen, you will need that identification, federal tax forms, records of your on-tax income, and then some other additional info. So as you can see, it's already a very stressful process, a lot of things that are needed. So the earlier you get started, the better. And with that being said, I know you guys will all be back next Thursday for financial aid night. It actually will not be ran by me. It will be ran by the LCC financial aid advisors. So 2 of them will be here, and they will run through what it's like to fill out the Fafsa. So please do come to that. It's actually parent-teacher conference night. So parent-teacher conference night is from 3 to 8 o'clock. So it kind of serves multiple purposes. So if you want to check in with your student's teacher and then stop by here at 6 o'clock, and you can also get that information. And it's perfect because it's about a week out from the time that Fafsa opens. So that's still, if you want to go ahead and get it started from your end this weekend, early next week, and then come in with your questions for next Thursday, that would be ideal. So 2 different reps from LC will be here. And that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you have to go to LC to be a part of it. They're basically just a good resource that I had, and I reach out to them. A lot of the colleges so far have said that if you are for sure attending that school, you've been admitted, and you know you're for sure going there, they will sit down with you and fill out the Fafsa. So Kent State has said that to me, and Akron. So a few schools have offered that option. So if you're going to a set school, your student has been accepted, they know they're going there, they can reach out to those offices and get help with the Fafsa. Going back to scholarships, so I keep mentioning merit-based. So for those of you that may be unsure as to what merit-based means, it's typically scholarships that are based on your ACT, SAT scores, and or GPA. Typically, they require both, but this year with everything being test optional, a lot of schools are only looking at GPA. For example, Akron said that with a 3.0, you qualify for the merit-based scholarship. So if any of you are going to Akron and have a 3.0, you're set to go. Honors colleges, on the other hand. So I know CSU, for example, has an honors college, and I believe there's a scholarship attached to that.
There is.
There
So
is.
If you're accepted into the honors college at CSU, it actually covers the full cost of in-state tuition for the entire 4 years you're a student at CSU. They do require a separate application, though. They're a little bit more holistic in their review. So you can either have a 30 composite on the ACT, a similar score on the SAT, or be in the top 10% of your high school graduating class.
And they still require an ACT score this year?
It's an option. You can send the ACT, or you can be in the top 10% of your high school class. But if your high school doesn't rank, the guidance office will reach out
Perfect.
to the honors college and do their holistic review.
Yes. And some schools do have, like I mentioned before, if you apply early action, you will be considered for merit-based scholarships. And like he said, some do have separate scholarships. So that is for you to kind of find out. And if for some reason you can't find it anywhere, is as to if you need to apply separately to the honors college, then you can come to me and we can try to find that information together for your specific schools. Again, a lot of those brochures over there will have that information as to if your school is, if there's a separate application for honors college or merit-based scholarship. Another reason, obviously the perk of going to college for nearly free tuition is a great perk of joining an honors college. Additionally though, there is special opportunities for honors college. I know for example at CSU, they have a special lunch just for honors college students. No one else can get in there. And I think it's kind of rude, but again, perks of honors colleges.
It's a nice lunch.
Yes, I'm like, are you kidding me? Not fair. And then a lot of schools do have like research opportunities. If you're an honors candidate, it's a lot more easier for you to get selected. A ton of different opportunities that are mainly for honors college students. And then local and community scholarships. I'm sure in December all of you guys will be reaching out to me. That is when I will find out about all of our AMPers local scholarships. I will be sharing that out with all of you. Hopefully maybe we could do a scholarship night. I can't promise that we will, but that's always an option. And as of right now, I don't have a ton of scholarships to share with our current seniors because most of them do typically come out early, late winter, early spring kind of thing. So around that time, you can expect to hear more so with you. I do email all of my seniors. As soon as I find out about a scholarship, I will email all of you, like, hey, here's this scholarship opportunity. So as a parent, you can be on them about looking for those emails and making sure that they are applying to those scholarships. For example, the BGSU College of Business, so if any of your students are going to the BGSU College of Business, there is a scholarship that the deadline is the end of this year. So if any of you have a student going to BGSU College of Business, let me know and I can share that information. So, as you are all here, So this is kind of a list of things that I think it's nice to have your parents for. So college visits. I think a lot of my seniors, they're interested in a school, but they haven't visited and they're not really sure. And I think it's really meaningful to them to have their parent say like, okay, like let's sit down and plan a visit to this school. Because oftentimes they may be intimidated to do it all on their own. So I think as a parent, helping them plan those college visits can be really significant for them. Additionally, ACT and SAT registration. I'm sure this is very meaningful, especially to my juniors. Signing up for the SAT and ACT. Sometimes you need your parents' help for at least doing it for the first time. Some of our students that might have like an IEP or a 504 and that may want to put those accommodations in place, they may not know how to do so. So having a parent by their side on how to do so. Again, these tests also cost money, so it can be really intimidating to them to kind of factor that in and know how to pay for the test, and they may not feel comfortable asking you for money to pay for the test. So I do think kind of pushing them to sign up for those tests and sitting in with them and doing so goes a long way. Organization. So my seniors, they are not really sure as to when deadlines are, what needs to be submitted, when things are due. They get accepted into a school and they're like, well, what do I do now? So I think as a parent, kind of just noting the deadlines of the schools that they want to go to. Once they do get accepted, taking that welcome package and finding out what they need to do next. Do they need to set up an orientation? Do they need to take a placement test? Do they need to look for a room and board and a roommate and all of that? So I think as a parent, kind of helping them, putting it all in an organized way also helps. And again, deadline awareness as we shared. And the big one is Fafsa. So I think Fafsa is mainly a parent responsibility because they take parental income so much more into consideration than the students. So a lot of it is coming from your tax forms. A lot of these students are unaware as to how tax forms work. And I think to be fair, they're young adults, so I can't blame them. So I think having parental support, going through those forms and saying like, this is what it's asking for, this is what we need to put in, can really help them. And then financial, yes?
With the FAFSA, is that a parental income or is it a household income?
It'll ask for both typically, yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. So financial breakdown. So once students are awarded scholarships, like for example your merit-based scholarship, honors college, you get the Fafsa award letter. You might want to sit down with them and say like, this is how much you would truly be paying for college, because it may be a lot for them to figure that out on their own. So breaking that down, like this is how much is coming off of Fafsa, this is how much is coming off of your honors college, merit-based, local scholarships, and then this is how much you have to pay. Because again, you typically have to factor in room and board, books, transportation. If they're completely furnishing a new dorm, that can be expensive as well. And then, like I mentioned before, I've already had seniors do this. I got accepted, but I don't know what to do next. And I'm like, well, I do need to see the welcome packet because I can't guess what you need to do next. So as a parent, when they get that welcome packet, read it through, find out what needs to be done next. Sometimes you may need to create an account through the school's website. Sometimes you may need to register for an orientation like I mentioned before. And then if they need to take a placement test for whatever reason, if they need help declaring majors, finding that advisor that they need to meet with, all of that good stuff. And now I feel like it's a great time to kind of throw some questions at our special guest here. Any questions that you may have when it comes to their side of things, what they see when you apply to a school. Or any questions for me as well, I am more than happy to take them now. Yes?
So when can they apply?
So-
Let me rephrase that. When can they visit? Like she's a
She can visit whenever, so she could visit as a freshman, sophomore, junior, yeah.
Okay, cool.
And typically for applications, I know that may not be what you need, but August 1st is when the Common App opens, so she can start applications then, like going into her senior year. She can't apply in senior, but that's still pretty early on.
Correct, is she eligible for that absence as well?
Yep. I get the thumbs up from the principals back there, I'm like, I don't know that one, but yes. Yes.
I didn't catch it. What is an OBE? Like, what does it do?
ODE, so I just brought that up because I was sharing the information like they just created a portal for the financial aid. So ODE is just the Ohio Department of Education, and basically they created a website to go over financial aid information. I forget the link for it. I believe it's free.org. So if you want an overview as to what costs it is for our financial aid event next week, you can check that out and kind of go through that.
So it's more info about Fafsa.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little confused about the difference between, Common App and Naviance.
Fair enough.
Yeah, like, it seems like it's almost the same thing, but I know it's not.
Yes, you're right. I'm going to say that. I'm not fair. Yes, so I think a lot of our seniors were confused as well as to the difference between Common App and Naviance. So Common App is what you use to apply to schools. So you create a profile on there. We do not have like a school, like, it's not like a school given account. Every student creates an account. Usually you use it when you're applying to 2, 3, or more schools. And then you actually match it to Naviance to request transcripts.
Okay.
So Naviance, we use it for many different reasons, but for our seniors, primarily it's to request transcripts. But students can use that, again, to register for college visits. So Naviance, a lot of local high schools use it, and it's used for, again, so many different reasons, like surveys, assessments, career search, all of that. So it's more of like a well-rounded tool set kind of thing.
Okay. And what do you, like, I know that there's like early application and stuff, but what are most applications due? Like,
So it seems like it's kind of a mixed bag right now. A lot of our seniors are applying early action, so like early November, those applications will be due. But regular admissions, it's usually like late December, early January, those will be due.
late December, what, I'm sorry.
Late December, early January. It's typically very different for every school, but those are typically the time frames. Yes.
Just caught my attention with that upgraded lunch for honors program, but.
Upgraded lunch? They get lunch now?
Did you say something
Oh,
about?
lounge.
Oh, lounge. I was gonna say.
Forget it, no. No, but, with the honors program, it was very, very competitive. If someone would get in there and then, let's say they also pursue the 3+3 program,
Yes.
in their 4th year, do they lose that scholarship because they're in law school, or do they continue with some portion?
That's a good question.
I believe it stays.
I believe it stays at least for like their first year of beyond their undergraduate years. So I think it's for at least one more year. That scholarship covers it.
Yes, because technically you would still be able to qualify for Fafsa because you're still an undergrad. Well, I mean, you can do Fafsa as a grad student, but qualifications change a little bit, so I think so.
Follow up, if you've got a pile of CCT, is there anyone who's ever done a 2+3 because they had so much, or is that just not possible?
From my experience, students who come in with a lot of college credit, they can
Oh, yes.
finish early. Which is
Yes.
nice, which also saves money too.
Yes. College credits are a huge saver. Honestly, like that's one of the things that I'm most impressed about Amherst is their strong CCP program. I think a lot of our seniors are probably cutting down at least a semester or 2 of college, if not more. So that's a full year right there. Money and time. Yes. Just 1 second. I'm going to come closer because I can't hear.
To apply to honors programs, is that on your application on state chat?
So it depends. It changes for every school. So some schools do, if you apply early action with your school, will automatically consider for honors college. But like you said, so say for example, the applications are separate. Yes.
Are the merit-based scholarships a separate application as well? Or is that dependent on the school also?
It seems like for the most, I'm not entirely sure on that one, but it seems like for the most part, as long as you have the GPA and SAT or ACT score, if they require it, you will automatically be awarded that merit base. And if for some reason you don't, you can claim it. You say, hey, I have all the requirements, where's my scholarship? Yes.
If your child goes to like community college for 2 years, what type of scholarships or financial aids available when they transfer? Do they still have scholarships when you go in as a junior?
Yes, so most colleges typically do have a ton of scholarships posted on their websites. Sometimes they're even major based. So Cleveland State, for example, I remember that they do like the continuing student scholarship, and you fill that out, and even though like you're transferring in as a sophomore, junior, whatever it may be, you fill that out and you check box everything that you qualify for. I love it because there was no essay. You could apply to multiple scholarships at once, and like that, for example, would be a case like that. In that case, my big thing with LC is if anyone's going to LC first, always sit down with a transfer advisor at the college that you plan to transfer it to. Although you may not know the college that you plan to transfer to, I would try to narrow down as much as possible because for the most part, credits do transfer, but you want to sit down with someone that knows like what you're planning to major in, that knows the school that you're going to. And transfer advisors are paid to serve that population. So although you may feel awkward because you don't officially go there, they're there to serve you. So they can sit down with them and also ask about scholarship as well.
Okay, thank you.
CSU has a transfer center that they do unofficial transfer reviews so students can know what credits will transfer
Excellent.
before
Thank
they
you.
even apply.
And yeah, it's also nice just because you know like those will apply towards your major because you don't want to go in with a ton of gen eds that you don't need. You want to make sure you're already working towards your major if you can, especially our kids that have a ton of CCB credits already. Yes.
So curious if your student decides to take Naviance, do universities, colleges frown upon that or
I don't think
indifferent
so.
to it? Indifferent? Okay.
Not really. The only thing is they'll still probably be looking at that high school GPA. Like there's no other or not GPA transcript. They'll be going off of that high school transcript since there's no other one to really look at. That would probably be the main thing.
Thanks for doing this, first of all. I think it was really helpful.
Oh,
And
thank
it
you.
saved a lot of yelling. But also, if he's applying to like reach schools, and this is for both of you, how do they look at, I mean, we're talking like way reach, I know it's hard to say.
Yes, I've seen those.
Way reach schools. Is it better to have that you got a 3 on an AP exam or to leave it off? And if you leave it off, do they assume that you got something worse than a 3?
That's a good question.
Because he's got like 3s, 4s, but do you put that on or do you just leave it off and pretend that?
Have you seen anywhere like, because every school has different like guidelines for AP credits that they will take. Have you like
3 is the passing, and that's considered passing, and it's
For
considered
most of these
acceptable even at
schools.
like Harvard. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But would they rather see that it's a 3 or not see it at all?
I don't know.
From
So
my
are you
experience-
self-reporting normally?
Yes.
Self-reporting.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, from my experience, it doesn't hurt to include it anyway.
Just include.
Yeah, because we'll most likely see.
Like you said, if they're still taking that as a college credit with 3, then
And we know it's a reach, but it's just
right.
should just be honest and just say.
Right.
I always think most use the best policy.
Okay. Thanks.
We got this. Yes.
Um,
So because of COVID, a lot of colleges don't students start with COVID academically. We all know that. Transcripts show that. So a lot of schools adapted that policy. We're going to allow you to choose if you want to submit it for because we know like in a school on a classroom, a lot of it is virtual, that kind of thing. And a lot of schools are kind of falling towards that trend because they know that for the most part, they say that standardized test scores show how successful students will be in college, but we know like hard work goes a long way. Like one test is one day, this is what was depending on what you in college, where you had 4 years to do yourself. But I think that says more than one day you have to finish. It depends like on your score and how comfortable you feel with it too. Yeah. It's a hard question because it's definitely like person by person. Yeah, it's a person by person, depends on school, depends on program. Some programs may still require it for like admissions, like this is just an example, I don't know this for sure, but like for example, if nurse requires a nurse program requires 27 on the ACT and you need that, it's a hard deadline or requirement, and we still want to submit it if you have that score, this is that sort of stuff. But as of right now, most schools are past actual, so. So it used to be required for a lot of American scholarships, but a lot of them have taken that off.
for whatever person.
But I don't know like the exact answer to all that, but I know that's usually like the way to do so.
You know, a lot of schools have like veteran success centers, and they don't have those benefits.
Yes.
All right, so what's the best advice you can give a student that doesn't really doesn't know what's inside of the meter?
Naviance assessments, they never fail. I'm kidding, but I would
Naviance assessments?
yes, there's like 4 different ones. Some schools honestly are that like once a week, because when the test is done, just so you have an idea as to what you're doing. If the student needs help with finding those assessments, I would give them to you, but the self-discovery section. No, they're supposed to. Yeah, I think that's what they're.
I was just teasing.
There is like a 4 different ones.
Eligible for like a $100, like, it's been hard to get a social like somewhere. Can she still be considered for like a college?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah. She would just cut down 2 years of school, but she would get that bachelor's degree in 2 years. She would get her bachelor's in 2 years rather than 4. Any other questions? Yes. So, our school offers the SAT to all juniors. However, we are a test site, so Ms. Rigda, one of our school counselors, she is our testing coordinator. So she runs SAT and ACT on every Saturday that they're offered. Typically, between the 2 tests, we have a test here about every other Saturday. So there is state testing for like the state testing for like grad passes. No, those are more so for like graduation requirements, like for the state of Ohio. So we did offer the SAT last year, so she would have a score from that. So it was offered by the school, the SAT.
Juniors.
They came here to take it, like it was a school-wide test, yeah. So she would have taken it here. It was just like, it would be just a normal like school day, like. I'm sure she has. Yeah, and I can find that out for you because it would be on her transcript. So a lot of colleges, if like a parent works for the school, it has to typically be a parent. Oh, gotcha. Yeah, you would still be her primary, like, so it would be your information going on in the process. I'm not entirely sure, so I would have to research that. Any other questions?